What's happening, YouTube? It's your homie Akuma coming back to you with another video. In today's video, to round out the week, by the way, I hope everyone had a good 4th of July and you know, a good week overall. And coming at you today is a deck, as you can see, is very hyper aggressive. So I call this deck Hyper Prime. This is just one iteration of, you know, many different strategies. You can go with General Optimus Prime. Of course, he can go straight orange. He can go straight blue. He can even actually possibly go mixed, which I'm thinking about making a couple of mixed decks with him. But yeah, this deck is hyper aggressive. You know, the fact that General Prime gives Lionizer and Prowl, you know, an extra bold built in with, with their already built-in bold, just seems very powerful starting out. I will say that one weakness of this deck will be like W5 Gyro Blaster in side decks, or if people are main decking them. That card is something to watch out for, because, you know, that just shuts down like this whole deck strategy with their inborn bold. Now, I don't play any other bold cards besides the characters themselves that have the bold within them. But W5 Gyro Blaster, you know, yeah, is the main, or like Dampening Field. Dampening Field to a lesser extent. I mean, you can't flip more than 4 cards, but Dampening Field could possibly hurt. And Insecticons. Insecticons is probably still, you know, the worst matchup for any 3-wide orange deck. So I might look into building a 4-wide orange deck, you know, featuring the Prime, and see what other, you know, the little guys I can fit in. But yeah, I think that this deck will have a decent time against Insecticons if it can go first. So it's highly dependent on the die roll, because I remember, you know, of course, Sentinels having a bad matchup against Insecticons, and one of the ways to win was to go first and attack with your Prowl and try to KO their kickback with the first turn. But it was very hard to do, because even with his bold 1, you had to get really lucky and hit, you know, a double orange and an orange and, you know, a white to extend into your flips as well, and hopefully hit that 10 or at least 9, so you could get it, you know, to with 1 health left, and then ping it with Hot Rod and then go after another character. But with this deck, I mean, Prowl has the bold 2 initially, and I think I'm playing about 5 whites in my deck as well, so it just helps you extend into more. It seems like, just out of theory, and a couple of test hands I've played, 3 out of 3 games I flipped 10 or more, you know, attack to be able to KO kickback. But on another note, I think actually with this deck you might want to attack Scrapnel first, because if you can KO the Scrapnel, you know, let's say you attack kickback and you kill the kickback, they send Scrapnel in. Well, now your Lionizer attack is so useless. Like, it's most of your attacks are already useless, and you know Scrapnel's only going to take 3. But Lionizer, you want to hit him to hit those high numbers, and it just feels bad when you know you're attacking into a Lionizer or into a Scrapnel and only dealing 3. So with that being said, I will jump right into the deck profile. Alright guys, so to start off, you know, what orange deck does not have this card in it, Peace Through Tyranny, and this is probably the best card in the deck. Of course, when you Peace Through Tyranny Lionizer, you're having a really good time, and especially depending on the game state, there are certain times when activating it, you know, not even necessarily when your opponent's bots are all tapped and then you have one untapped bot, and you know you attack with your bot and then everybody untaps and you attack again. There might be times where like you might Peace Through Tyranny on the very first turn. Not too much to say about this. Peace Through Tyranny, you'll usually use this on Lionizer and maybe even Prowl. Keep in mind, Prowl is very relevant right now because of weapons, so you can you know, use direct damage on your opponent's Lionizer, and then when it becomes a weapon, you can flip Prowl and kill the Lionizer for free. Or even on the next turn, like if you kill their Lionizer, and then you don't have to rely on ramming speed or Enforcement Batons in order for the Prowl to kill their weapon. So a very powerful card, 3 Peace Through Tyranny. Next up, we have 3 Reckless Charge. This card is very good in this deck. It's, of course, very good in any orange deck, but it's even better in this deck when you go first and you open with Reckless Charge. Putting it on your Lionizer, you do not care. You don't care if it takes 3 because you actually want it to be KO'd, so it can turn into a Saber. And of course, on any of the characters, even on Prime in his bot mode, you know, he'll have 10 attack. He's a 10 bold 1 before, you know, without a weapon, and that's definitely KOing someone that turn. Next up, we have 3 Confidence. I am playing all Autobots, so of course Confidence helps us dig through our deck, helps us find that Peace Through Tyranny, helps us find any other action that'll be relevant for that turn, and I mean, just, you know, helps you get further in your deck. Of course, to find the things you need. Next up, we have 3 Ramming Speed. This card is very relevant coming up in the meta. You used to play 1, used to play 2. Now we're maxing out at 3. Utilities and weapons are more relevant these days. So Bash and Shield, you know, always took care of armors, which it still does, of course. But now we need the Ramming Speed / Vaporizers to deal with opposing utilities, and especially like W5 Gyro Blaster. You know, this is a card you would keep in most likely at 3, going to game 2 and game 3. Speaking of for a side deck, and you know, try to definitely get rid of that Gyro Blaster, because if you don't have Gyro Blaster, you're just using your only 2 flips and your weapon and action or whatever to deal with their monster. Here I go, Shades of Yu-Gi-Oh again. Hashtag Shades of Yu-Gi-Oh. Don't mind me. Next up, we have a 3 zap. Need some direct damage. It helps to not have to, just like with Sentinels, you don't want to have to send in one of your big attacks, because all your attacks are big, and to any of their bots that have little to no health left. So if they have that 1 health left, just get it up out of there and get a more valued attack versus a character with obviously more health and get the KO. And then next up, we have a new card. Hey, I'm finally playing a new card. I don't know if you guys noticed, but in my run amok deck, I played like not one new card besides the characters. So as you can see, the way I build decks starting in the format is kind of looking at the old and it's playing with some of the new characters in a sense. I do lean towards more of the battle cards in my next couple deck profiles. This week's profiles were heavily orange. I guess the run this town deck was mixed, but it was predominantly orange, and so is this deck as well. So my next 2 deck profiles next week will definitely be heavier blue, and go from there. But the new card that I am playing in this deck is Quartermaster. You cannot play this deck without Quartermaster. Of course, it's great on Lionizer. This is what I was talking about. One thing I was talking about, which is very powerful with this deck. When you go first, or excuse me, when you go second, they attack whoever with their character. You can possibly use Peace Through Tyranny on your turn to KO your Lionizer. And I'm talking about your very first turn, the turn where you only get 1 action to upgrade. Play the Peace Through Tyranny on your very first turn, KO Lionizer, put it on Prowl. And this is speaking as if you have Quartermaster in hand as well. Put it on your Prowl. Now your Prowl has bold 6, not even just bold 5. He has the bold 4 from the Saber, bold 1 from himself, and then bold 1 that the Prime has given him. So he'll have bold 6 going to attack whatever character they sent in to attack the Lionizer. That character's probably getting KO'd, almost no question about it. You'll have to flip very poorly, which you probably won't because you play just about all oranges, besides I have a couple of no pips in here, no icons, but yeah, so you use that, and then you get to go again, you get to draw again, and now you get to play an action and an upgrade, because this is your, you're done with your second turn. And then you play Quartermaster, move the Saber over to Optimus, flip Optimus, and then use Optimus with his bold 1 side, and now he has bold 5, and if you have, a utility or an upgrade to play, you can go also kill another bot that's unprotected. Again, they didn't get to do anything on their first turn but attack with the character they sent in. So if Prowl did his job and killed the character that they sent in to kill the Saber, or the Lionizer, excuse me, then now Optimus gets free range at one of their other 2 or how many other characters they have left, which can probably most likely KO that character too and leave them very crippled all the way from the beginning of the game. So with that being said, as you can see, Lionizer I really think is going to cause a lot of games to not go in time now because of him. He's going to make games so fast it's going to be ridiculous. Even with side decks, even with Gyro Blaster, Dampening Field, Infiltrate, all those cards, you're not always going to have those cards when Lionizer comes to get you. And yeah, I really think that he single-handedly is going to make games go into time less often. So I expect to see a lot of Lionizer at GenCon. So this card lets you move and upgrade, of course, over, just like I just explained, move or upgrade over from one of your characters to another. And then it's pretty much an I-Still function for Battle Masters. If it is ramming speeded or vaporized or crushing size, psych, just joking, or what's the last card, or Enforcement Batons, you can just bring this back with Quartermaster and wreak havoc again. But for my 2 ofs, I play 2 Press the Advantage. Of course, I'm playing all Autobots. Decepticons, I feel like, are on the rise. People are trying out new decks like that, like the General Megatron deck. The Shockwave deck is a big one, so I think this is a card that will definitely help try to get rid of Shockwave, and hopefully you can dodge and infiltrate when you play this card against that deck. But that deck seems very scary. He has a lot of health, 17 health and 2 defense, so definitely want to try to get him up out of there and hit as hard as possible. Next up for my 2 ofs, One Shall Stand, One Shall Fall, in conjunction with the Zaps. These are very good standalone cards in terms of direct damage to get rid of characters that have little to no damage on them, and you don't want to waste any of your attacks on those characters. And of course, this is always good if your Lionizer's in range of One Shall Stand. You'll easily and happily One Shall Stand your Lionizer to KO it and make it a weapon and go attacking at whoever you choose. And then last but not least, we have a 1 treasure hunt. I'll show you my weapons and my upgrades and things later, or here in a second. But it seems like you don't need as many anymore. And well, you know what? I'll just stop right there and I'll explain it once I actually get to them. So just 1 treasure hunt to, of course, fish for some of your important upgrades. And I do play a couple upgrades that I actually genuinely want. But for my weapons, just starting out, we have a 3 grenade launcher. What orange heavy deck do you not play without grenade launcher? I don't think you play, not a 1. So now I will say, in conjunction with these grenade launchers, great card, not much to say about it. I'm also playing 2 Erratic Lightning and 1 Enforcement Batons. Now, I'm thinking about, and this is this is all I play for my weapons, and the reason why is because Piece to Tyranny, look at your Piece to Tyranny as a weapon now. So think of your weapon slots as 9 weapons total. Because, you know, like I said, Lionizer is technically a weapon, or Piece to Tyranny makes Lionizer a weapon, and that's technically one of your weapon slots. So you're technically playing 9 weapons right now. I don't even know if I need the Erratic Lightnings. I might even just take these out and just play 1 Enforcement Batons, and this is literally my weapon lineup. It looks really weird because that's not normally how, you know, when decks are built. Usually decks have 7 to 10 weapons, you know, or more. So it'll take some testing to really see how useless the extra weapons are in my hand once the Lionizer dies, because especially in orange heavy versus orange heavy matchups, the Lionizer is going to be KO'd a lot sooner than later, you know, like versus blue. So are you really going to need all these other weapons when you're kind of just moving around the Lionizer? Now, it will be relevant, like if you put the Saber on Prowl, you know, and Prowl dies, and of course now you don't have it anymore, but maybe you put the Saber on Prowl because you have Quartermaster and you want your opponent to try to kill that Prowl so he doesn't get to stand and attack again, and that way that gets some pressure off of Prime, and then little do they know you have Quartermaster anyway just to bring this back and put it on Prime and, you know, do what you do again. So it's going to take some time and some testing and to see exactly how many weapons I'm going to need, but I really feel like I'm going to either need this or even less, because, like I said, Piece to Tyranny is now a weapon, so consider it that. And of course, you know, just not much to say really about Erratic Lightning, great card, Lightning. But Enforcement Batons is very relevant in this meta. Weapons are getting more powerful these days. The main one you want to kill, of course, is a Lionizer or even Raider Aimless if the Aimless happens to die, you know. So, yeah. So 6 weapons. And then coming up from my armors, literally not much to say about this. Play 3 Improvised Shield. You'll almost never equip this. Like, I do play a card that includes some blue in it, but maybe late game you might equip it just so you may hope to flip that 1 blue card. But other than that, you will never equip this card. You'll just pitch it for your confidence. You'll pitch it for your green icon cards to get it back into your deck to reshuffle. And next up, I'll play 2 Force Field. Force Field, I think, is not necessarily great, but it's high risk, high reward. So if you can get it to stick, in the orange mirrors, your opponent shouldn't be getting Bashing Shield. They may get one because their hand is bad, or they're trying to fix their hand, like get rid of Improvised Shields or Piece to Tyrannies that they're not going to use, or whatever the case is. And they may keep it in their hand, but then later on in the game, you may like wait to play the Force Field at the correct time if you notice that they trade the Bashing Shield for a press stay advantage, because I'm not ever activating, you know, an armor. So they're like, I don't need this press stay or this Bashing Shield. Then that's when you can play your Force Field. So, and either way, you know, if it doesn't stick, it is what it is. But if it does, it's definitely high risk, high reward. And you need something else to play as a upgrade besides weapons now, because once your Lionizer becomes a weapon, you know, usually you play your grenade launcher and press the advantage or whatever on your character to boost it up very high. But now that Lionizer is a weapon, you need something else valuable to play for your turn, so it'd be easy to just equip the Force Field. And then, like I said, again, if it sticks and your character is able to stand and get an attack again, it's very valuable. And last up for the weapons, of course, armors, we have Bashing Shields. Of course, not much to say about this. You're probably side in the third one against blue heavy decks. And yeah, to get rid of those armors and get to attacking, swinging for the fences. And then last but not least, for my utilities, I am playing, this is the card I was talking about that included some blue. We have 3 Matrix of Leadership. Now, this card is in here, again, specifically like with the Force Field, the fact that your Lionizer becomes the Saber, you need something else to be able to activate, you know, in another slot, because obviously you're not going to trade this for a grenade launcher or whatever. So putting this, and even early game, if you can draw a Matrix of Leadership, even like against blue, early game is great. Even against other decks in general, the fact that Optimus and his upgrade now spreads to everybody. So if you can get this on your first turn, you know, now you're making your Lionizer 1 attack, bold 5. You're making your Prowl 6 attack, bold 2, which is ridiculous, you know. So, and every now and then when you randomly flip it on defense, something that your opponent, of course, can't calculate for, you know, it could save you a game every now and then. But I wouldn't bank on that. But I think it's just a good card to play, especially because it's a utility and it helps, you know, like I said, when your Lionizer becomes a weapon. And then last but not least, I'm playing this as a one-of because Stealthiness, or not, okay, let me say that, let me run that back. I'm playing this Stealthiness as a one-of because it's only good early game. Like, you can possibly attack with Lionizer early game and then send in your, you may or may not ever do this, but you could send in your Prime next with Stealthiness, and then they have to attack the Lionizer. So this entices your opponent, not entices your opponent has to attack the Lionizer and kill it, and then you could put the Saber on Prowl and attack with the Prowl, you know, with Bold 6 now, or Bold 5 anyway. And so it's very hand dependent. Like if you do this play and you have Quartermaster in your hand, it's nice to be able to attack like this, and then on your next turn Quartermaster this over, you know, when you stand back up or whatever the case is. But of course this card gets very weak towards the end of the game, because you know you're going to definitely have less characters towards the end of the game. So I'm only playing one, and it's just a tech choice, and on top of that it's just for testing purposes. So with that being said, talking about the side deck, I'm not going to actually get deep into side decking a whole bunch of cards, but what I will say is against blue decks, I think something that you could do is take out Prowl for RC and side deck RC with 2 mounted missiles, because now you have 2 star cards. RC is 5 stars and mounted missiles, you know, of course, are a star each. So you could side mounted missiles and RC versus heavy blue decks, and you know RC or blue decks hate RC. So you know, we saw it at Origins with Brian's deck, and RC was tearing Optimus up. So that's an option, and you know she'll have 2 attack with Bold 1, and then this is also what's great about this card is mounted missiles is a weapon, but it lets you play it in your utility or armor slot. So you'll most likely put it in your utility slot, and then this doesn't get in the way of your saber, which will always, you know, of course, be a weapon. So I think this is the go-to, and this is what definitely would make sense. Again, your Insecticon matchup, it's kind of just a deck you kind of just choose. You know, I remember Dan saying a while ago, you know, choose a deck you want to lose to. So I mean, yeah, Insecticons will always just be any 3-wide orange deck's worst nightmare, simply because they have better attack, they have more attacks, and I still function to make, you know, make it ridiculous. So that's it for the deck profile. I hope you guys enjoyed it. Thank you for hanging here with me. I will have 2 blue decks to include in my next week's deck profiles. I promise they'll have more new cards in them. As you can see, again, like I said, my deck's been having a lot of old cards in it. This deck profile literally has only 3 new cards, the Quartermasters. So, but you know, there's nothing wrong with that. I don't think. It's just how I start, you know, in terms of looking at the format and you know, building my decks. Now the blue decks, I will say, does definitely have a lot more new cards in it than the orange decks. But yeah, I think orange got a lot more help in the character department, clearly. And yeah, so not too much more to say about that. I'll catch you guys next week. Stay tuned. Monday I will be coming at you with another deck profile, but it will be a blue deck. Hopefully I can get some gameplay in, and but if not, you know, I'll definitely just definitely you know, check out reports on Facebook if you guys are on the Facebook page, and see what's happening in tournaments. I think we're in a drought right now for tournaments, so that's why it's going to be kind of hard for me to get some gameplay, unfortunately. I don't think there are any tournaments. There's one, I think, at in New Jersey, Bacon and Ice Cream Productions home store. Shout out to them. So I might get a chance to run to that, may or may not, and if I can, hopefully I can get over there and record some games if they're cool with that. And but either way, you know, I'll be doing some reporting back with games I do get in, and let you guys know how the format is shaping up leading into GenCon. All right, so with that, guys, I appreciate you guys being here as usual. Have a good day, good night, whenever you are catching this video. This is S. Akuma heading out. Peace.